Hello and welcome to the Stadia planning meeting. Last year, we were the second biggest fail of the year after the release of Anthem. Yes, well done, very proud of us. But this year we want to be bigger. We want to fail harder. And so I put the challenge out to you. What can we do to ensure that we're the biggest failure of 2020?
Increase our prices.
We're already the most expensive we could possibly be. There is no way people are paying any more for our product.
Fallout 76. Let's put it on Stadia.
I like this idea.
Yes,
what
good.
else you got? Keep going.
Promises. More broken promises.
Sam, we have already broken all of our promises. Every single one. There's no promises left to break. My question is, who do we look to for guidance here? Who do we look to for inspiration? Who can we turn to become the most hated gaming company for 2020? Of course, exclusives.
I was about to say exclusives, so that's good.
Shut up.
Stadia,
God, what?
Actually, worse than 19? I don't know. It's a very close first or second between
Anthem.
Anthem, baby.
And also, there are other notables in this list. There's Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Ooh, yes.
There was Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Meme point, that was good.
There was Blizzard's tough esport moments. There were quite a few fails, but of all the failures of 2019, Stadia basically feels like the worst because it kind of promised the world and then delivered like absolutely none of that.
No.
Things, it seems, are not about to get any better for Stadia despite their best hopes and dreams. They've announced their strategy for the coming year, and their answer to all of Stadia's problems, Google's solution to the hatred that gamers already have for this platform is one thing: exclusives.
So, guys, cloud streaming, Stadia. Thank you so much, Stadia, for making everyone love to hate streaming, which is already now happening. I was excited for it, but Stadia had to get in there and destroy the idea of streaming for most people.
It was, yeah, that's true, partly. I mean, it was released in November of last year with some very bold claims, but absolutely, well, not absolutely, but very few people had nice things to say about it. People were complaining about the hardware, about the latency, about how tiny the selection of games was.
4K.
The 4K
that was
broken
a big
promises. The fact they couldn't get their names that they wanted to reserve on day one because they weren't getting their codes.
Big Schlong 69 was taken.
It was very, very sad. So all of those things culminated in a disastrous release, and the reviewers were basically like just tearing this thing to pieces. It really felt like a beta product that should not have been released then, and certainly people should not have been charged for it. I actually tried it in London, by the way, just by the by.
I was gonna say, so I didn't get to try it yet. So Ralph has, so he's now an expert. So you played.
And I tried it for like 10 minutes before I was like,
that was it.
That was because I was like, this is unplayable. It was just,
wow.
like, I wasn't on the best internet connection, but it wasn't the worst either. Like it was within the parameters of like this should work, and it just did not work. There was so much latency when I was playing like Rage 2, and Red Dead was actually not so bad, but Rage 2 I was like, yep, cannot do this. I wonder,
it's interesting that certain games seem to be running better than others. I thought Red Dead would probably be the much harder game to run, but who
no, it's just about to do with the latency, because Red Dead's quite slow and clunky.
Oh, I see.
Oh, the controls in Red Dead aren't clunky. You're just bad at games. God,
Keep falling off your horse, for God's sake.
So many people post that in my Red Dead review. The controls are actually brilliant.
Ralph's butthurt,
just
everyone.
a casual gamer. It's like, you fucking idiot.
Butthurt. But look, some games when you jump on, a lot of people are like, screw this, especially Destiny 2. Now, it looks like the actual figures of the player base on Stadia for Destiny 2 have dropped 60% from 19,000 to like, what, 10,000 or something? So,
yeah, more than that.
Yeah, something like that, right? So, it's not going well for the Destiny, player base on Stadia.
Yeah, there was also new data released this week as well about the mobile app downloads for Stadia, and basically, long story short on this was that there were a whole bunch of downloads that happened in the month of November when the product was released, and since then, they've only had 50% more downloads in December and January, which means that things are not going quickly for them. Things are not growing. Things are not increasing in pace. They're slowing down massively, and that's really bad. Because just so you know, the mobile app is required to be able to use Stadia. You can't buy things on the Stadia storefront on your TV or whatever. You need to use the app and then like beam it to. It's so bad.
It's very annoying.
The point is, the mobile downloads is a really good yardstick for how this thing is going, and the mobile downloads are telling a very sad tale.
I actually think this is not even their biggest problem. Their biggest problem for Stadia, ladies and gentlemen, is lack of games.
Yeah, that's true. If you go to the Stadia subreddit, I think the most regular post is people being anxious about like, will this platform survive? Are you actually going to release games on this thing? Because unless games start getting released, it doesn't get any momentum, and then publishers are like, well, fuck it, there's no point in releasing stuff on that platform because it's just going to cost us money. We're not going to see return on investment. So Stadia have done their very best to try and allay those fears in a blog post which they released just this weekend, and here is what they have said. We have a lot more planned and will continue to work hard toward delighting gamers with our vision for Stadia. Looking at our upcoming lineup, we are tracking more than 120 games coming to Stadia in 2020 and are targeting more than 10 games in the first half of this year alone that will be only available on Stadia when they launch. We're working with our partners to share more on those games soon.
So in regards to the 120 games, this is obviously in direct response to the fact that there wasn't a lot of games coming, you know, and we did an episode, as I said, we did an episode only 2 weeks ago about this. So they've obviously seen
They've watched the Laymen.
They watched the Laymen.
They're like, guys, we need to get some games out.
Okay.
The Laymen are right. So we're used to seeing the whole exclusive strategy pursued by console manufacturers because, you know, like that's built into the business model, and it's like they've got to sell their hardware and make their money back because they sell their hardware at a loss and all those sorts of things. We kind of get it. We don't love exclusives, but it does happen. And it eventually just leads to like flame wars on, you know, forums and on Twitter and, you know, like spicy commercials.
Free Super Monaco GP free or columns free. What Nintendo?
And the best example of that, of course, is good old Tim Sweeney, Epic Games Store, okay, and their wonderful push for exclusive on PC, and it's worked beautifully.
So obviously the comparisons to the Epic Games Store are going to come thick and fast because it's the most notable example of people absolutely hating exclusives, but it's important to remember that in the case of Stadia, this is way worse than the Epic Games Store. I mean, like at the end of the day with the Epic Games Store, you can still play the games, you just need to download another launcher, okay? You can still do it. If you hate the launcher, fair enough, whatever, we're not getting into that discussion now, but you can do it if you want to, right? With Stadia exclusives, if it is exclusive to their platform, you will not be able to play this game if Stadia is not in your country. You do not have a good enough internet connection to be able to handle it. You do not have access to the internet at the time. Like, if you're someone who actually wants to own your games instead of just like renting them from a server, then those games are completely inaccessible to you during their timed exclusive windows.
I wonder if this is in fact going to be exclusive only on a PC kind of thing, or across all consoles and PC it's going to be completely exclusive only
I do wonder.
on Stadia.
I mean, like,
because I think it's going to be really tough for a developer to stay in good favor, I think, with consumers. If they're like, well, it's not coming to PC and it's not coming to consoles, it has to be on some shitty marketplace that is, you know, very underperforming at the moment, and half the entire globe can even access it, and you know the actual performance of it is so bad that it's a giant meme. It's just not. It's not good news for any developer wanting to do this, I think. Epic Games was a bad word, you know, in terms of exclusive with Epic Games. Stadia exclusive is going to be a whole other.
Imagine that war, God. Imagine if they got something big. Like, imagine if they got like the next Batman games, or like a FromSoft title, or some Rockstar game. Like, imagine if they got something gamers really cared about, and it was only available on Stadia. And by the way, you can't even pirate it if it's on Stadia. If it's exclusive to Stadia, there's nothing to download, right? You can't get the code, so you can't pirate it. So like, that's next level. I mean, like, I have always said, like, if something is not available in your region because that company has not taken the time to actually release it in your region, and it's not coming in a reasonable window, like a week or whatever, the case for piracy becomes a lot more
piracy.
I'm saying it creates a lot more grey zone. That's a fact. It does, man. Like, I'm not gonna fucking wait 6 months to play some game.
If you can't play it, then they can't make that money off you anyway. I hear that. I think the bigger danger is smaller companies, maybe like Telltale, when they were really in big trouble. A lot of people do love their games, where they are in dire straits or they really do need financial support, that they will make those deals. And maybe this is what Stadia is going to be looking for.
Yeah.
You know, people, you know, types of IP that people know and love, and they will line up for, and they will sign up for Stadia for. And they'll actually just get those on, and that's going to be a real shame. You know?
I agree with that. Like, we could have the next Outer Wilds, you know, Game of the Year 2019, could be a Stadia exclusive, and that means I in Australia would not be able to play that game at all because it's exclusive to a platform that doesn't exist in my country, and my internet's too shit to use it. Do you know what I mean? So like, that's shitty. I just, at a high level, I don't think this is the right strategy for Stadia at this point. I don't think this is going to win them hearts and minds. I think it's just going to turn everyone against them. I really think they right now should be focused on just getting those 120 games out the door and getting a stable service that everyone loves, and they're all like clapping and they're like, hey, I love Stadia, this is fantastic. That's it. But also, can I make the point, I don't think Stadia should ever be the primary, like, destination to play. I really feel like all these cloud streaming platforms should be an auxiliary add-on. Like, you buy the game here and you can also play it on Stadia kind of thing. Like, I just don't see how Stadia having an exclusive lineup is the goal here, because I don't want to have to play my games on Stadia like ever. I want to play them mainly on my console, and then if I want to, I can play them on Stadia on the go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that Xbox has the luxury of making sure it can be an auxiliary, but, you know, Stadia, it doesn't have that, you know, and I think that's to its detriment, because it is trying to make it like the main event, you know, it's trying to make it the only thing that you want to play it on, where Xbox, as I said, you know, they have Xbox, they have Project xCloud, they're also integrating with PC, they're giving the player options, where Stadia is now clearly trying to kind of corner certain games and make you use Stadia, instead of being like, guys, come and play with us because it's a really cool technology, not because we have this type of game. And that's a bad way of doing it, I think.
It's totally the wrong strategy, and it really folds into every other bad strategic decision they've made up to this point, which is charging for a beta before it's ready, charging you for the hardware, charging you for access to the service, and then charging you for the actual games. Like, the biggest problem with Stadia isn't the technology, because that will invariably get better. The biggest problem with Stadia is the horrendous business model that just makes you scratch your head and be like, why the fuck would I pay money for this? Why am I doing this? I could be doing this exact thing, but on Xbox through Project xCloud, and you won't be charging me all the money in the world for it, and if it doesn't work, I can play it on my console. Like, why does this thing exist? And I do not believe that having exclusives makes Stadia relevant, and it's like, oh, Stadia's become the must-have product for 2020, because now they have, like, Red Dead 3 on there. Like, oh god, that would be bad. That would really hurt. Imagine, like, /r fuck Stadia would immediately emerge. And, like, Circle Jerk with fuck Epic, and they'd have, like, Circle Jerk parties. I'd be in on that shit.
I don't know where we're going with this.
Anyway, that's the episode.
That is the episode.
Stadia sucks, and no thank you, Stadia exclusives. Australia does not have any internet, and we don't want that here. Okay?
Red Dead 3 confirmed. Alright, goodbye.